Hey everybody, welcome back for a really interesting episode of yall-itics. I mean, all of them are interesting, but sometimes you find just that special character and that special story to tell.
Yeah, a few weeks ago we had a woman who is leaving, a Texan, who is leaving the U.S. after Trump's election. She's moving to Holland.
Yeah.
One of my friends, Bud Kennedy from the Star-Telegram, told us about Joe Rhodes and said, you think Jana has a story? Find out about Joe's story. So we're having on this podcast here, and we had to do this like really early in the morning. Early for you. It's
early.
Yeah, it's noon
anything
for everybody
noon
else.
Is early for me.
It's way early for me.
But Joe is,
good. I'm glad we're kindred
it is for you
spirits.
too?
Oh yeah.
So we're at Three Nations Brewery. We'll get into Joe's story in just a moment. Three Nations Brewery in Carrollton.
Uh-huh.
This is not too far from your place here.
It's right off of 35 in Carrollton. Huge place. You can't miss
Massive.
it. Beautiful layout that they've got here.
And tell us about the name.
Okay, Three Nations. So it started off, 9 years ago they started this place. And they started off wanting to just stay true to those true beer, the nations in Europe that are known for beer. That's where the founder went to learn, beer making. And we're talking about Belgium, Germany, and the UK. And so they started with that. Well, things change, things morph, they grow over time, and now they do all kinds of stuff here. But I decided to do the go time today because this is a German. Hold on.
It's a Helles lager.
It's a German lager with bready notes.
Wow. I'm having the, let's give a shout out to them first here because they got the best of, they won 3 best of awards.
I don't even need the notes for this. You're reading notes.
Well, they have a giant sign outside here.
Okay.
They got the best local brewery.
Yep.
Oh, do you know all this?
Yes.
What are the other
Also
two?
best local beer and best local seltzer.
And the best local beer is what?
It is the Saddle Up, which you're drinking.
Which is what I'm having. And the best local seltzer is what?
It's like a knee high. Right?
A knee high. What is this, 1960? The best local seltzer is it's called Mystic, and we're gonna have that a little later on probably.
I love how you quiz me. I love how you quiz me with a game of gotcha, and then you say it. In fact, the answer is
let me go back to
scrolling through screens.
My wife was putting the Christmas tree up last night. I had to take a picture of that. So listen, we have. Let's get to Joe's story here because I didn't know this existed.
Joe is Joe Rhodes, by the way.
Joe Rhodes. Let me read his your background on your Substack.
This will be good.
Column. So
first of all, Joe, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking the Hazy IPA. It's their New England IPA, and I think it's called the Haze Wizard.
And Joe is appreciating a good beer today, and we'll get into why that is here in just a moment too. Go ahead with some background.
You're not having the larger version because you had a couple too many last night.
I've had a number of IPAs since I've been in town.
Okay, all right. Well, Joe is a retired pseudo-journalist. He says he's a full-time drifter, average height, below average intellect. So you're at the right place.
We are kindred spirits.
Yeah. But your online blog is called Unmoored. You can find it at Substack. Joe says he's a guy who can't swim, hates the sun, easily annoyed, goes on a 3.5-year cruise because what the hell? It's a big world. Might as well have a look around.
And that's shockingly accurate.
Where did you find a 3.5-year cruise to start with?
There was a lot of attention when there have been several attempts at this. And the one that got the most attention was 2-3 years ago called Life at Sea. Mm-hmm. That was basically, and some of the same people that are involved with this cruise were involved with that cruise. Mm-hmm. And they got a fair amount of media attention, and I think I saw a story on CNN about it. And I was a little bit adrift. I've been living in a van for the last 13 years.
Huh.
And
so one of these people who goes to parks and stuff around the country and just
some
stays
of
there
that.
for a
Mostly,
while?
I just fall asleep in the bar that I've been drinking in. It was great. It was before there was a hashtag. Van life did not exist when I started it. So in 2010, because I was a journalist, I was living in Los Angeles, and the journalism business was changing, and I felt like I needed to be more flexible. And so my solution was to live in a van. And so for the last 13 years, that's what I've done, up until this. And I still love it. And in fact, one of the highlights of being back in town this week was that the friend that I've left my van with brought it over for my birthday parties. It was my birthday this week.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you.
It's a big birthday too, by
It
the
was.
way.
I'm 70.
Yeah, stop it.
The fire was shocking. 70 candles. It has a bloom to it.
It's more of a bonfire than a cake.
The people were frightened. Yeah. The van. It was and is a great van. It had a bathroom and refrigerator and solar panels and I loved it and still love it. Mm-hmm. But after 13 years, there were not a lot of places that I had not gone to several times. There were not a lot of surprises waiting around the corner. And I felt like I needed to shake things up a little bit. So when I saw this CNN report, I thought, well, that might be a logical next step. Mm-hmm. Instead of just driving around North America, I'll just float around the world. Which it turns out is a very different motivation than what most of these people have. Huh. Most of the people that have signed up are people that go on cruises all the time.
Have you been on a cruise yet before this?
I only after I signed up for this, I decided, because several friends pointed out that I was an idiot because I had never been on a cruise, and that to sign up for my first cruise for it to be 3.5 years long was not a good idea.
They have a point.
Yeah, no, they were right.
Yeah.
So last summer, I went on a 10-day cruise in Iceland and Greenland, just to see how I liked it, and I liked it fine. Huh. And I thought, yeah, I could do this. Huh. I don't tend to get seasick. I like, and it's a continuation of what I like most about living in the van, which is the idea that you've got your world with you, but you're in different places all the time.
Yeah.
There's something really satisfying about that. It feels safe, but at the same time, you're on an adventure.
So it sounds great, like this thing has gone off without a hitch so far.
Yeah, no, there's been no problems whatsoever.
You got to catch up on the Substack to know about the little glitches here or there.
You really should, by the way.
Well, it's something they're snafus, maybe. I don't use that very often, but perhaps it's apropos for this situation.
But again, it's called Unmoored on Substack, Unmoored, and
you could take that on a number of levels.
Yes, you could. But there's some phenomenal writings on there, and it really is. I mean, for somebody who's stuck in the 9 to 5 and dreams of this kind of stuff, go check it out. Maybe you won't dream about it as much, or maybe you'll dream about it more, but it's you can sort of live vicariously. There have been some issues, though.
There have been some issues. We were, just to sort of get the chronology right, Life at Sea was 2 years ago and got as far as people were supposed to board, I think, last December, and then the company fell apart and people got stranded in Istanbul. But some of the people who had signed up for Life at Sea, and I was one of them, had been told by the CEO of this new company, we're not sure that this is a sound investment. We're going to give you your deposit back, and then you can decide. So I got out and didn't suffer any consequences
from
at
that
all.
first cruise.
From that first cruise, I never. But a lot of people put up money, and I think some of them still haven't gotten their money back, and some of them have moved on and are now a part of the Villa V cruise, which is the one that I'm currently on. So some of the people from Life at Sea splintered off and decided they thought they knew what they could do better. And in terms of capitalizing things, the last company clearly didn't have enough money in their pocket to. They never even bought a ship. Wow. They couldn't get that together.
It's hard to cruise.
It's on paper, huh? Hard to cruise without a boat, right?
And the other innovation that these guys came up with was that they would make the passengers owners of the cruise.
You're called a resident, right?
You're called a resident. You're not a passenger. You're a resident. But you can be certain kinds of residents. You can be a founder, which is somebody that puts up a lot of money ahead of time and is basically on the board of the company. You can be an owner, which all the founders are, which means that you get your cabin and pay for it ahead of time, but you own it. You own it for 15 years or when the ship sinks. And I'm not sure where I'd put my money right now. And you can do with it as you will. You can sublet it.
It's like real estate.
It is, and many people I think bought it as a real estate investment.
So are you an owner, or what are you?
I'm a renter. I'm in steerage.
Okay, you're in steerage. I like it. How expensive is this?
It's not, well, at my level, it's actually not expensive when you consider what you are supposed to be getting.
What you're supposed to be getting. Listen to the words here very carefully, because there are clues being dropped.
Basically, I rent month to month.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an apartment as if I had an apartment in Oak Lawn.
It's like $3,500 bucks.
$3,500,
And
is
it's
that right?
$3,500 a month, which is not cheap, but that's all your meals. That's the Wi-Fi, the gym, the laundry, the housekeeping, and you're waking up in a different city pretty much every day.
Yeah.
It's not a bad deal.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, it's a better deal than there are obviously older people on the ship. That, you know, they've got the time and the money to do it, and they some of them have done the calculation that this is cheaper than going to some sort of assisted care facility, and a lot more fun.
True. So, Joe, the name of the boat is the Odyssey.
Yes.
Via V is or Villa V, depends on where you are.
They don't even know how you say it.
Is the name of the of the company, and it bills itself as the world's first residential cruise ship. You got off the boat though. The ship is underway. The sailing is underway. Took off in May, I believe. But you hopped off.
Oh no!
It was supposed to.
It was supposed to leave in May.
It was supposed to
There's
leave
that
in
phrase
May.
again, supposed to.
Yeah. Dropping the words here. Clues throughout the podcast.
Yeah,
we'll
little
have a test
Easter
later
eggs.
on. But you got off the boat in West Africa, Senegal, and flew back to Texas to vote
That's exactly what I
in the
did.
presidential election.
I flew from Dakar to Dallas, so I'm pretty sure I get the win for who came the furthest to cast their vote.
How much, though, did the current state of politics play into your decision? The current state of this country play into your decision to just park the van and get in the boat and take off?
It was a factor. It wasn't an overwhelming factor. Remember, I made this decision a couple of years ago, but even then, it was something that everybody was talking about. That it seemed fairly obvious that Trump was going to be the nominee, and therefore there was a chance he might win the election. And maybe you wouldn't want to be here for a couple of years, depending on if he wins and what chaos he might bring upon us.
Is that why you left, though?
It wasn't why I left.
Looking back, though, are you glad you did?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the thing I noticed, because I was gone all summer, although I'm not moving around.
Yeah. Waiting.
But the election from a distance was a lot less stressful, and I felt like I had a little bit more objectivity about it, because most of the events that mattered, the assassination attempts, Biden's withdrawal, all of that stuff that was incredibly dramatic. Most of the big things happened overnight for us, so we're reading the second day stories, and it's more like you're reading history, even though it's only 24-hour history, than living it in the moment. And I kind of like that part of it.
That's interesting. That's almost like you were not even in the last century, but the one before that, and the way that you were consuming news about what was going on, and that changes how you process and think about things. So from afar, what did you see as the stakes in this election?
Oh, well, I had no question about the stakes. I'm an unapologetic progressive. I'm liberal, democratic, whatever label you choose to use. That's who I am. So I thought that the stakes were existential.
Can you put that in context in your 70 years?
Yes, I think the threat of the system failing, if Donald Trump was and now has been elected, was greater than at any time in my life. There's the choices. There have been a lot of presidents that I worried about, but none that I thought were going to just take the whole thing apart. And I think there's...
You mean democracy?
Democracy, yeah. They'd just blow it all up. And I believe that he'd be perfectly happy to do that. And I worry about the effects on future elections, on voting rights, and I worry about the effects on the world. There's a lot of people going to die in Ukraine because he's in charge. There's a lot of people that are going to die trying to get across the border or not being able to even come because he's in charge. It's going to be bad, and it's going to be, I think it's going to be horrific economically. You know, the idea that you can put tariffs on everything and deport migrant workers, it's going to be a disaster. And I believe that the people that voted for him thinking, well, you know, we're sick of this inflation, and we think Biden did that to us. I feel like in a couple of years they're going to regret that.
When are you coming back again? You're going to wait 3 years before you come back to see how things unfold here, or what?
Theoretically, it depends, as with everything on this cruise, it depends on a number of factors.
So you're more concerned about the cruise than you are the state of politics at home here.
My ability to come and go will be impacted by the cruise more directly, yeah. I'm not yet on any no-fly list, so I'm okay. But the cruise is supposed to come to the U.S. next summer. But we're not currently certified to dock in the U.S.
That's a problem.
That's a problem.
But cruise aside, do you plan to come back?
I don't know. I mean, I could see either option. It's I thought about it a lot when I was in Ireland. I spent most of the summer in Ireland, and I really liked it there. And I'm sure there will be places that we go that I will be taking a look at. Is like, you know, could I live here if it comes to that?
I say that wherever I go.
Yeah, I always think that.
I'm thinking right now, could I live here at Three Nations? Possibly so.
Why, yes, I could.
They have a sofa over here in the back.
You know, I'm curious too, just, you know, because of your politics and the way you feel about this election in particular, is there a little bit of relief that you are sort of buffered? You know, on any given day, you might be thousands of miles out at sea somewhere, and you're nowhere near this. Obviously, you're keeping up with what's going on here, you know, a day or two after the fact. But is it a good feeling that you're not bombarded with this on TV and in the grocery store with people talking and that sort of thing?
I think it's incredibly helpful not to just be in the middle of it all the time. Because the first Trump administration, I just felt like I needed to get under the covers on a daily basis. I don't think I'll have to spend as much time under the covers because I'm a selfish person like everybody else, and it won't be affecting me directly. So the visceral fear and revulsion will be reduced because my day is less impacted. And I think it will help me be able to process it and to hopefully have a better sense of where to go once it's done.
There are all kinds of folks on this ship, the Odyssey, with you. But how many other Americans are on there? And do y'all ever talk about this?
We don't talk about it much, which I think is really interesting. We talk about it a little bit,
and maybe healthy.
Yeah, I think it is healthy. Everybody has done a pretty good job because politics is clearly so volatile now,
and not just here.
Right, everywhere. Yeah, but particularly here.
Yeah.
And there are some Trump advocates.
What do they say?
Mostly get away from me.
You already have a reputation in that way then.
They already.
It's a smaller ship, though. Where are you going to go? There are a lot of places to go, right?
You know, it's a big enough ship. You don't have to eat dinner with them. You know, it's high school basically. And so you could pick your table, whether you want to sit with the jocks or the nerds.
Who are you sitting with?
I'm sitting with the nerds. And so we don't. But I think everybody, and I applaud. You don't see anybody walking around with a MAGA hat.
Yeah.
Even though I know there are people there that have them, but they don't make that their first step into the door. And because it's a small ship in an enclosed place, and where things go wrong on a regular basis, I think it's been wise that we haven't talked about it a lot. I think, you know, I don't think anybody's hiding their preferences, but it's not the first thing they talk about. It's not when we're hanging out in the bar, that's not what we're talking about.
And there's a new city each day. There are new things in front of you every day, and it's not CNN or Fox News or MSNBC.
Right. Now, some people, and also that's the other thing, that the TV hasn't worked. So that's been helpful.
That helps.
Lucky man, how do I sign up, right? We'll make sure they get a copy of this podcast, though. It's just less. There's other stuff going on. Yeah.
It's just not your first concern. Your first concern is, I wonder if there'll be water today.
It's interesting how survival does
Sure.
sort of
right.
leap to the front
It's like
there.
everybody helps out after a tornado.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Well, do you consume news at all on there? I mean, how do you do that?
How do you get it?
And how do you get it? And do people discuss it at dinner, at the bar, stuff like that? Or are you talking about where you just been?
It gets discussed a little bit, like when something specific happens, like Biden withdrawing or people taking a shot at Trump. But in a bigger sense, there were not a lot of in-depth, overarching conversations about the direction the nation should take. There's not a lot of that, even though there are some people on board who were high-ranking Republican operatives.
Why are they on board then? I mean, this is a great time for them.
It probably would be a good time, but they're old school Republican operatives. They're probably in more jeopardy than I am. So we talk about it a little bit less than you think, and my consumption is all online. I subscriptions to all the elite media. Your New York Times, your Washington Post,
New York Post.
Exactly.
The elite ones, only the elite
only
ones.
the elites. The Dallas Morning News,
Of course, you have to have Wi-Fi for that.
and we do.
Okay.
I mean, the Wi-Fi has been one of the things that actually, for me anyway, has not been an issue.
Oh, wow.
But there are people that have taken that are on the cruise who are digital workers.
Yeah.
Are they really?
That are running small businesses.
So they're living life like normal, but on a ship.
So obviously for them, having a Wi-Fi and internet that works at a fairly high level was critical. They wouldn't have signed on if they weren't assured that would happen.
Wow.
And I
one
guess
of those jobs.
Yeah.
I guess it's been a little spotty in terms of the people that need a whole lot of bandwidth.
Right.
We've got the Starlink. We're tethered to Elon Musk.
You are.
And I'm pretty sure that if need be, we can be called in to operate drones in battle areas.
I'm curious. So, as you're floating around out there, does it change your perspective? I mean, as you mentioned, in the first Trump administration, you were glued to the TV. You were watching every development as it was happening in real time and getting stressed and sick about it. Does it change your perspective on a lot of these issues and these policies and the fights that we have and the polarization when you're out there and you see the world and you see great things, beautiful things, and you see real struggles too? Or places in history where there have been real struggles. I mean, you were just...
I was in Belfast.
Exactly.
Recent
There have been
struggles.
some struggles
Yes.
there. Also, the island off of Africa,
Goree
slave
Island,
house,
which was the slave port.
Yeah, so I
interesting.
imagine that affects your perspective.
Oh, sure it does. But it also reminds you that the struggles are kind of everywhere. The characters change and the specific issues change, but the larger battle of who are we as a people, what do we want, how welcoming do we want to be to outsiders, that stuff's going on everywhere. I mean, it was certainly going on in the UK this summer. And they're
Germany? Another big one.
yeah,
France.
but even in Africa, I mean, we were just in Senegal, and it tends to be a little bit more dramatic there. But part of the last election in Senegal was, are we going to welcome people from this particular tribe who we've considered not to be part of our nation? Some people want them back, some people don't.
You could apply that to the U.S. today.
It's absolutely
It's the
Just
same
change the
thing.
names and the
Speaking
characters.
of tribalism.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, the biggest issue in the world has been for, I think, decades is tribalism.
Sure.
We all are drawn to tribes, and then it depends on how we define them and what we think is important to keep their integrity, and what will we do for that.
There's still a huge Dallas Cowboys tribe too.
There's that, yeah.
I don't
I'm
know
not
if
sure
it's
why.
huge anymore.
Well,
Yeah.
Let me
But
go-
it is the same thing.
Yeah, sure, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's, you pick a color, pick a team.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Let me go back here to the actual boat here. How do you prepare for this? You mentioned you lived in a van, but how do you prepare for this?
Well, it was easier for me than almost anybody else because a lot of people had sold their houses and had to either get rid of or store their many belongings.
Sure.
I didn't have any of that. I was able to take what I wanted, put it in a big suitcase, and ship it over. And actually, I've got more room now than I did before.
That is a good.
You leveled up then, right?
Yeah. This would. I guarantee I had less transitioning to do than anybody else on board. My life is essentially the same. All that's changed is the mode of transportation.
Nice. Well, you said something in the. Jason and I both like to travel. He won't travel with me, so I have to go by myself.
God, no.
But you said something that kind of resonated with me that, I'm not putting words in your mouth here, but something like, all these European cities are the same. All the churches are the same. All the museums are the same. But you really enjoyed the music venues and the music at these different stops. Has that been the highlight for you?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
For me, the perfect night is to wander into a music venue, whether it's a bar or a theater or something, and find some local act that I'd never heard of before that just blows me away, preferably while drinking beer. and that's what I seek. I was at Nate's Seafood in Addison last night, where they have a Sunday night blues jam every week.
Yeah.
And it's great musicianship, but it feels like a local, organic thing. And I said to the people I was with, this is what I'm looking for. When I'm
it's in Addison. You didn't have to go anywhere.
And
you could have stayed
right down the street.
I've clearly miscalculated.
And we should point out that these stops are helpful for you because you are a connoisseur of good beer, and you're not really finding that so much on the ship.
There have been a number of disappointments in terms of what's been available on board.
You talking about the beer, or?
I said a number.
Yeah.
The beer would be one of those numbers. And there are rumors, because there are always rumors. That's the thing. It's a small town, so it's a blaze with rumors at all times.
So all the rules still apply.
Yes.
It's a blaze all the time.
Oh, it's nothing. It's a gossip fest.
That is very. Essentially, it's a town, or it's been a town when you've been on it of a little bit more than 100 people.
Yeah.
It's growing as you stop at different
But it's
places
still
and pick
only
people
going to
up.
be 300-400. It's still a very small town.
That is a high school. I mean, that's
almost
smaller.
Small towns are almost messier because everybody knows
everybody knows
business.
everybody's business.
Yeah.
And there are some single people on board, and this is a discussion we've had more than the political discussion. Is you don't want to get involved with somebody here, because if you break up,
you're stuck. You're going to see them every day.
Stuck
Every
at
day,
sea.
yeah.
You're stuck at sea, my friend.
It's even worse.
So that seems more important to them than the fate of democracy.
So
Or your complaints about beer.
Or my complaints about beer. They have terrible beer that on offer. Here are the beer selections to choose from: Corona, Miller Lite, Coors Light, Bud Light, and zero alcohol Heineken.
You're on this worldly ship that's going all the way around the globe. Those are your choices.
Are you serious?
That's it.
And you drank them dry of the Maggie's Leap IPA, right?
Well, not them. That was when I was in Belfast.
Oh, that was in Belfast.
No,
okay.
I wish I could get Maggie's Leap IPA on the ship.
We'll see if we can get Three Nations. Yeah, we'll see if we can get Three Nations on there.
Right.
We'll connect Three Nations to.
Nothing would please me more.
I'm curious. So we've talked about politics. What has this taught you about life?
Oh, nothing.
Anything? Nothing?
No, I have no wisdom of any sort. I'm as dumb
You
as
don't
I
think
was.
this has changed you in any
Joe,
way?
come on,
You don't
man.
think this has made you think a different way just about the way we live?
I was already cognizant of some of that just by virtue of living in the van.
Yeah, true.
That by not having ties to a particular building, not having a lot of stuff, and the freedom to really go where I wanted when I felt like, and that seemed like a tremendous gift to me, and still does. Mm-hmm. And it turns out that it's an important thing to me. I don't think I could ever buy a house and live there for a decade or more.
It sounds like you're all about like breaking the mold and doing things your way, and you and Trump have some things in common.
We do, and believe it or not, I've said this to some people. I said, that my fear is that he is as bad a president as I would be.
That is very honest.
Because I do things without knowing what I'm talking about.
So you think you might be equally terrible in a different way?
Yes, I believe we would make
to
some
what you
different
think he will
choices.
be.
Yeah, but in terms of my qualifications for the job, we're about the same.
Wow.
Yeah.
After what you said about him, that's
Oh
a
no,
stunning admission.
Oh, I've got a lot of issues.
Are there other Texans on board this ship besides you?
There are.
Are there? From where?
There's a couple from Houston, and I want to say there's a couple from San Antonio.
Yeah.
The breakdown of Americans are about 60% of, maybe a little more than that.
Wow.
of the.
I didn't think it would be that much.
No, yeah. There's a fair chunk of Australians. There's a lot of Canadians. From the Americans, there's a lot of people from Florida.
Really?
I can see
yeah.
that.
Huh.
Yeah.
And if you're in certain tables in the cafeteria, you might as well be in the villages.
What has been the reaction from your friends and family for this?
They're not surprised.
No?
When I told them about it, I said, I've done a lot of stupid stuff, and this may be the dumbest thing I've ever done. And they went, no, it's not.
We got a list.
and so I don't think anyone's shocked. I think some people question, and probably still question, whether I'll make the whole 3.5 years.
That's one of my questions. Are you going to stay out there the entire time?
It depends.
What does it depend on?
It depends if things go smoothly, which they haven't.
Well,
so
they
far.
haven't, so yeah.
Yeah, but let's say they get their act together in a way that there's less sort of daily mini crises. I think I probably would stay the whole 3.5 years. However, if it's as disruptive as it was for the first month, I would probably try and find a way off.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'm going back kind of to test them to see, now that they've got more people on board, will they step up their game, or will the extra people put more stress on their systems and things will break more often? They're going to open up. There's only been limited restaurants and bars open because there were only 125 people.
Okay, sure.
But they're going to open up the rest of it. For the longest time, they didn't have any pools. The pools weren't open, which was fine because we were in Northern Europe and it didn't really matter much
outside,
anyway.
yeah.
But and that's not important for me because, as we've mentioned, I can't swim.
You're on a cruise and you can't
I
swim.
can't
That's
swim.
not good.
But for other people, it's really important. That's their view of what life on a cruise ship is, that you're hanging out by the pool every
give
day.
me that pool.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me be out in the sun.
So the fact that was not operational in a timely fashion was a big deal for some people.
Let's say that this thing finishes its journey and does the full 3.5 years, and you're on it for all of that time. What do you think you come back to at the end?
That's
here. If you
I
come back
know.
home,
I don't know, and I don't think any of us know. And I think people will ask,
Trump likes that though. He likes being unpredictable
oh, sure he
that
does.
way.
Yeah, and I like it too a little bit. There you go.
Another similarity.
But I think people that other passengers have said this, that a lot of their friends ask them, well, what are you going to do when it's over? What are you going to do in 3.5 years? I don't know. Where are you going to be in 3.5 years?
Does any of us really know?
No, you don't know what the world's going to look like. You're not going to know what your attitude's like. I could break a hip and have to go to rehab. I don't know what my life will be like in 3.5 years, nor do most people. And part of the reason I wanted to go ahead and get on this one, even though I knew there would be bumps just because nobody's done it before, was that I just turned 70. Do I wait around another 4 or 5 years? Maybe when I'm 73 or 4 or 5, I don't feel physically up to it. I better go while I can. So that's why I signed up. Was like I haven't got another thing that I'm anxious to do. This could be really interesting, and let's see what happens.
Did you have a passport prior to this?
Yes, I did.
So tell us, 3.5 years is more than like the 7 to 10 day cruises that I've been on. But where have you been so far, and what are your favorite places?
Well, we spent a great deal of time in Belfast, Northern Ireland, because we were supposed to leave in May. I left Dallas last May, and knew that at that point the cruise had already been delayed by a couple of weeks. So I knew that before I left.
You're like, any day now it's going to.
And well, it seemed like an ordinary thing. Cruise ships have to redirect, and so instead of leaving from Southampton, England on May 15th, they said, no, we're going to leave from Belfast on May 30th. Great. So I'd already bought the ticket to fly to England, so I spent a couple of weeks going around Scotland and Wales. And,
that's nice.
Oh, it was great.
Yeah.
It was great. And then got to Belfast on time to board the ship, and they weren't quite ready. And it turns out they also weren't ready the next week or the week after that. We were in Belfast for 4.5 months.
Jeez, oh my God.
But you've been to other places since then. So,
I have. So we finally left September 30th, although the first 3 days after we officially left Belfast, we apparently weren't certified to go anywhere else. So
you had to stay at sea.
So we anchored 10 miles off of the Northern Ireland coast for the first 3 days. And then we, because they were not, I think, confident in the engines yet, we did sort of puddle jumps. We stopped at Brest, France, but weren't allowed to get off because they'd not been able to schedule the port in time. So we were at a cargo port, and there was no way for us to get off the boat.
So you just looked over at the shore?
Waved at the factories.
For how many days?
Just a day.
Are these and then Substack posts going to become a book?
If I'm not imprisoned, possibly.
But besides Brest, France, where else did you go? You went to Germany.
We went to. We did not go to Germany. We were supposed to go to Germany. There's a lot of supposed tos. We were supposed to stop a million places.
That phrase again, supposed to.
But we stopped. We stopped in Portugal. We had a couple stops in Portugal,
Nice.
a couple stops in Spain, and then the Mediterranean. We sort of looped in and out of through the Straits of Gibraltar. Spent some time in Gibraltar. Spent some time in Morocco, in Tangier and Casablanca.
Nice.
Went to a place that I had never heard of called Ceuta.
Oh, Wheeler's heard of that. Go ahead, tell us about it,
I have
Wheeler.
not heard
Go
of
ahead.
that, actually.
Give us the Wikipedia version
Stumped
on
me.
it. I've never heard of it either.
Ceuta?
Ceuta.
Regular spelling.
Ceuta.
Oh, Ceuta.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Wheeler.
No, I've never heard of it.
It's a Spanish enclave.
Really?
Much like Gibraltar is for the UK, which is, it's officially the UK, but it's in Spain physically.
They never gave it back, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And, they've been arguing about it for centuries. Ceuta is a Spanish enclave in Morocco.
In Morocco.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. I
So
did not
it's
know that.
On the Mediterranean coast or on the Atlantic coast?
And on the Mediterranean coast.
Oh, wow, I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
Huh.
And they've got a fence, not a wall.
So what's your favorite what's your favorite place so far, Joe?
I loved. We went to the Blue Village in Morocco, and I'm gonna butcher the pronunciation. It's I think Chekhouen.
And neither of us will ever know that you butchered
I
it.
should have just bluffed my way through.
Yeah,
that.
you should have. We wouldn't have known.
Which is a place that you've seen in a million movies, and it's famous. It's built into a hillside, and everything has got this blue glaze on it. And,
Wow.
And these ornate doors and alleyways that sort of, it's a long blue strip that kind of disappears in the distance. It's really cool and kind of magical. It wasn't good for me because it was a lot of climbing and I just had COVID. So,
you got COVID on the boat.
Yeah, so mostly I just sweated while I was there.
Jeez, that sounds miserable but beautiful. And now you're going to rejoin the ship in Martinique in the Caribbean.
where they are now. They got there today. They will still be there tomorrow. I fly to Miami tonight, and then I'll overnight there, and then fly to Martinique tomorrow.
And then onward to the Panama Canal, maybe?
Eventually, well, that's the plan.
If y'all-
not right away. I don't think that's supposed to happen until sometime in December. They're going to circle around a lot of Caribbean locations, mostly to begin with the Antilles, Guadeloupe, and St. Kitts and St. Martin. And
Sounds like a very good life.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless you don't like hot weather or the sun.
It can be terrible.
Other than that, it's great. Yeah.
And so.
So my plan is to not leave the ship until after sunset.
Yeah. So because you're not into those things. Why did you think it was so important to get back here to cast a vote in the middle of all this? I mean, they had finally just gotten it together and started moving along, and you had to leave them to go do this.
Partly it was because I didn't trust the state of Texas to process a mail-in vote from overseas.
Wow.
So you flew from Africa to do it yourself.
Yeah,
Goodness.
I didn't. I wasn't sure they were up to the job, and it felt like a really important election, and I kind of wanted to be here for it. I wanted, however it went, I wanted to be with friends and in a familiar place, and then because my birthday was coming up right after,
There's that too, yeah.
There I could justify it on a number of levels.
Yeah.
But it felt like I would regret it if I weren't here and if I didn't manage to get a vote in. I did not want to be one of those people that, didn't have a voice.
When you saw the result, though, did you think, I should have just stayed on the ship?
No,
No.
absolutely not. Because I would hate myself.
And others on the ship, the other Americans, did they do this?
I don't know that anybody else flew specifically to cast an in-person vote. Many people voted, most of them from other states where it was much easier to do.
Well, good for you all for still, making your voices count, whichever direction that you're voting, even though you're, a world away.
Yeah, no, it matters. I mean, we're still Americans.
Joe, last question from me is, what do you miss most about Texas when you're out there on the high seas and different countries, different continents?
Food and music.
Yeah?
Yeah.
The food. What kind of food?
Barbecue, Tex-Mex, all the things that make Texas great. All my complaints about Texas are sort of dwarfed by how much I love the culture. The politics frustrates me greatly, and I'm not a big fan of the weather either. but it's a place that knows itself, and where I tell people all the time when they ask where I'm from, I just say I'm from Texas, and that. They know what that means, and they don't have any further questions.
Well, Joe,
Well
cheers
done.
to
Yeah.
you, and here's bon voyage.
Thank
Hopefully
you very
everything
much.
gets moving,
Yeah.
and
Cheers, man. That's
we'll have to check in somewhere else on the route.
All right, yeah. Watch the wires.
maybe we join you on the route. We can work remotely for a while.
We very well may.
Maybe a couple of months.
That sounds like a nice life.
You might want to join for the Hawaii part.
I could go along with that, or the Caribbean,
Or Singapore, or,
I'll even go to the cold
yeah.
North Atlantic. Anywhere sounds really nice for an extended period when you're still working every day.
Joe Rhodes, tell people how they can find your Substack, Unmoored, your online blog. You don't do it all the time, but every so often.
Every couple of weeks when
you'll
there
drop
seems-
something great.
Yeah.
And they I'm gonna language warning on these posts, but they can find it at Substack.com.
Substack.traipsathon.com, but if they just type Substack Unmoored or my name, they'll be able to find
So
it.
UNMOORED.
Yes.
You're checking the spelling in your head in
we
real
both
time.
were
Yeah.
because I think you left an O out.
No, I didn't.
Nevertheless,
let's
was
play
the-
that back. It was 2 O's in there.
There were
All
two
right,
O's.
Wheeler.
It was a
Two O's.
pause.
we'll make sure Wheeler gets home safely.
It was the cadence.
Thanks so much for watching, guys. Joe, cheers to you, man. We really appreciate you taking time for
Thank
us.
you.
You're about to hop a flight, so we'll let you run.
Yeah, and a big thanks again to Three Nations Brewing here in Carrollton.
this
This
is
is
great.
a wonderful place, and I'm glad that you got a proper beer.
Me too. Thanks a lot.